Our chalice lighting is from the words of Florence Caplow, entitled Honoring Our Labors. In recognition of Labor Day, we light this flame to honor all work, including the work of our hearts, hands, and our backs, in gratitude for all the labors that support our world and for those who boldly continue the work of justice, equity, and peace.
Good morning and welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Des Moines digital service. I'm the Reverend Amy Petrie Shaw. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. And the theme for today is labor. I'm speaking to you now from land that's the traditional territory of the indigenous Pejote or Iowa people. Bill Paxson is our celebrant and Barb Martin is our song leader. Bruce Martin is our pianist, and Barb Glass is the pastoral care associate for this week. You know, this week we're talking about some hard truths that come with talking about labor. A lot of us are worried about friends and neighbors and people we know from our lives making it through the financial mess this time has brought us. Some of us are very worried about making it through ourselves. Financial injustice and economic inequality are a part of American life. And the stress caused by the lack of financial stability is sort of like carrying a 20-pound bowling ball every step you take. For some people, church is the only place in their life without an admission cost, and even that doesn't always feel true. So if you are broken, weighted down with worry and fear, this is the place for you. Not later when you can do more or give more or be more. Today, now. If you are joyful, laughing and dancing and shining like the sun, this is the place for you. Not someday when you need help or want to take the time. Today, now. If you are atheist, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Wiccan, humanist, pagan, confused, seeking, this is the place for you. We extend a special welcome to those who are single, married, divorced, gay, straight, filthy rich, dirt poor, no habla inglés. We extend a special welcome to those who are crying newborns, crying adults, brokenhearted, in need of a safe place. This is the place for you if you can sing like Barbra Streisand or if you sound like scraping nails. You're welcome if you're here just browsing, just woke up, just got out of jail, just have no idea why you're here. We don't care if you don't believe in a god or a goddess or if you've never been to a church. This is the place for you. We welcome those who are over 60 but not grown up yet. We welcome teenagers growing up too fast. We welcome the soccer moms and the NASCAR dads and the starving artists, the tree huggers, latte sippers, vegetarians, vegans, junk food eaters. You're welcome if you're in recovery or still addicted. If you're having problems or you're down in the dumps, you're welcome if you hate organized religion. We've been there too. You're welcome if you blew all your offering money on the track or at the casino or on crack cocaine. You're welcome here now, not later when you have more money. We offer a special hand to those who think the earth is flat, work too hard, don't work, can't spell, came because grandma wasn't in town. We welcome the inked and the pierced. It's a place if you could use a prayer right now, or if you've always had prayers shoved down your throat and never want to hear another one. We're welcoming you if you just got lost on the way to the refrigerator and wound up here by mistake. Tourists and seekers and doubters and broken hearts are welcome here. Beating hearts are welcome here. We are First Unitarian Church Des Moines, and there is a place for you. Please keep your microphones muted during the service, but after the service, you're welcome to turn on your mics and your videos and join us in the coffee hour breakout rooms.
Welcome to First Unitarian Church of Des Moines' digital service. At First Unitarian, we work to bring a message of hope and grace to an imperfect world. My name is Bill Paxson. My pronouns are he, his, and him, and I'm the celebrant for this morning's service. No matter who you are or where you've come from, you are welcome here. We welcome those who have some of the answers and those who have none of the answers, and those who aren't sure they're asking the right questions at all. As a UU recognized welcoming congregation, we welcome and affirm all people, regardless of who they love or what pronouns they use. Whether you are here for us for the day or for a lifetime, we are glad that you have chosen to join us online. Everyone is welcome to join us for a service, whether or not you live in Des Moines or have ever physically been at First Unitarian. Whoever you are, we hope you find something here today to help you on your life's journey. Our gathering song this morning is number 109, As We Come Marching, Marching. The words are copied in the chat screen. Please keep your mics muted and simply sing along at home if you'd like.
Thank you so much, Barb and Bruce. Our time for all ages this morning The story is Those Shoes by Beth Boltz, and it's illustrated by Noah Z. Jones, and it's going to be read for us by our very own Chelsea Hayes. Greta Hayes, child of Chelsea Hayes. Hold on just a second. Let me share my screen. And Lyra, please let me know if this doesn't come up as the story.
I have dreams about those shoes. Black high tops, 2 white stripes. Grandma, I want them. There's no room for want around here, just need, Grandma says. And what you need are new boots for winter. Brandon T comes to school in those shoes. He says he's the fastest runner now, not me. I was always the fastest runner before those shoes came along. Nate comes to school in those shoes. Antonio and I count how many times Nate goes to the bathroom. 7 times in one day, just so you can walk up and down the hall real slow. Next, Alan and Terrence each get a pair. Then one day, in the middle of kickball, one of my shoes comes apart. Looks like you could use a new pair, Jeremy, Mr. Alfred, the guidance counselor says. He brings out a box of shoes and other stuff he has for kids who need them. He helps me find the only shoes that are my size, Velcro, like the ones my little cousin Marshall wears. They have an animal on them from a cartoon I don't think any kid ever watched. When I come back to the classroom, Alan takes one look at my Mr. Alfred shoes and laughs. So do Terrence, Brandon T, and everyone else. The only kid not laughing is Antonio Parker. At home, Grandma says, "How kind of Mr. Alfred." I nod and turn my back. I'm not going to cry about any dumb shoes. When I'm writing my spelling words later, every word looks like the word shoes. My grip is so tight on my pencil, I think it might burst. On Saturday, Grandma says, "Let's check out those shoes you wanted so much." I got a little bit of money set aside, might be enough, you never know. At the shoe store, Grandma turns those shoes over so she can check the price. When she sees it, she sits down heavy. "Maybe they wrote it down wrong," I said. Grandma shakes her head. Then I remember the thrift shops. What if there's a rich kid who outgrew his or got 2 pairs? For Christmas, and I had to give one of them away. We ride the bus to the first thrift shop. Black cowboy boots, pink slippers, sandals, high heels, every kind of shoes except the ones I want. We ride the bus to the second thrift shop. Not a pair of those shoes in sight. Around the corner of the third thrift shop, I see something in the window. Black shoes with 2 white stripes. High tops, perfect shape. My heart is pounding as I take off the shoes and hitch up my baggy socks. "How exciting," Grandma says. "What size are they?" I shove my foot into the first shoe, curling my toes to get my heel in. "I don't know, but I think they fit." Grandma kneels on the floor and feels for my toes at the end of the shoe. "Okay, oh, Jeremy," she says, "I can't spend good money on shoes that don't fit." I pull the other shoe on and try to walk around. "They're okay," I said, holding my breath and praying that my toes will fall off right then and there. But my toes don't fall off. I buy them anyway with my own money and squeeze them on and went to the bus stop. At home a few days later, Grandma puts a new pair of snow boots in my closet and also say, worried about my 2 big feet shuffling around in my 2 small shoes. Sometimes shoes stretch, I say. Grandma gives me a hug. I check every day, but those shoes don't stretch. I have to wear my Mr. Alfred to school instead. One day during math, I glanced at Antonio's shoes. One of them is taped up and his feet look smaller than mine. After school, I head to the park to think. Antonio is there, the only kid who didn't laugh at my Mr. Alfred shoes. His shoe baskets, a loose piece of tape on Antonio's shoe smacks the concrete every time he jumps. I think I'm not going to do it. We leap off a swing. I'm not going to do it. We race from one end to the playground to the other. I'm not going to do it, I say. Do what? Antonio says, breathing hard. Grandma calls me for supper and invites Antonio over too. After supper, he spies my shoes. How come you don't wear them? Antonio says. I shrug, my hands are sweaty. I can feel him wishing those shoes were his. That night, I'm awake for a long time thinking about Antonio. When morning comes, I try on my shoes one last time. Before I can change my mind, the shoes are in my coat, snow is beginning to fall, so I run across the street to Antonio's apartment. I put the shoes in front of his door, push the doorbell, and run. At school, Antonio is smiling big in his brand new shoes. I feel happy when I look at his face and mad when I look at my Mr. Alfred shoes. But later, it's time for recess, something happens. Everywhere there is snow. Leave your shoes in the hall and change into your boots, the teacher announced. Leave your shoes in the hall. It's then when I remember what I have in my backpack. New boots. New black boots that no kid has ever worn before. Standing in line to go to recess, Antonio leans forward and says, thanks. I smile and give him a nudge. Let's race. The end.
Give me just a minute to get the stop share to stop sharing. The Iowa Wage and Labor Department claimed that an old farmer was not paying proper wages to his help and sent an agent out to interview him. I need a list of your employees and how much you pay them, demanded the agent. Well, said the old farmer, there's my farmhand who's been with me for 3 years. I pay him $600 a week plus free room and board. The cook has been here for 18 months and I pay her $500 a week plus free room and board. Then there's the not real bright guy who works about 18 hours every day and does 90% of all the work around here. He makes about $10 a week, pays his own room and board, and I buy him a bottle of bourbon every Saturday night. That's the guy I want to talk to then, the not real bright guy, said the agent. Well, that would be me, said the old farmer. Whether you are the one at the top, the one just making it, or the one making the $10 and bottle of bourbon a week, we appreciate any help in paying our own room and board this month. The link to the online giving will be in the chat box. When we pass the online plate, 1/2 of the money goes to our own social justice programs and 1/2 goes to our Faith in Action partner. Thank you.
everything freezes. I can't get past this. It's a mess. I think I'll just turn it over.
Thank you so much, Bill. Bruce, I'm sorry. We're going to have a brief word from Judy Newmeyer, who's going to talk to us about faith in action. Judy, have at it.
I'm Judy Newmeyer, one of the 4 Faith in Action team members at this church. The team members are Adele Villamez, Jack Hatch, and Catherine Vance. You'll be hearing from each of us this month. Let me provide a little clarity about what Faith in Action does. Our mission is to connect the nonprofit organizations known as community partners that receive half of the weekly offering with you, the membership. We'll keep these community partners' mission and their needs alive by providing you with information about where your donations have made a difference. For example, El Éxodo received a $2,400 check in August from First Unitarian. The money went to groceries for local families that work in rural Iowa and needed help due to the recent economic turndown. You voted at the annual meeting to support 2 community partners for the next 12 months. Those 12 months start now in September and will run through next August. Central Iowa Immigrant Community Fund and Planned Parenthood of the Heartland received 75% approval rating from the congregation. Faith in Action is inviting you to 2 kickoff events the last 2 Friday evenings in September. We want you to come and play Jeopardy with the Central Iowa Community Fund on a Zoom on Friday, September 18th. And then the following Friday, play trivia with Planned Parenthood of the Heartland, also Friday at 7 o'clock. I joined the Faith in Action team last winter because I wanted to see First Unitarian continue with its mission. I was feeling like many of you might be right now. Does church matter? Where do I fit in? Is anybody doing anything right? What am I getting from this organization? Cy Wakeman, who you may know from Reality-Based Leadership, tells us that the best way through this kind of disengagement is engagement. Simply figure out what matters to you, show up and support the mission. Your passion will come. Enthusiasm and passion follow action, not the other way around. So I would encourage you to look at your church and see what matters. If there's something that intellectually matters to you, then show up and do something about it. Your passion and energy will follow. And that's an important message, I think, right now in the time of COVID, where we're all kind of struggling. I chose Faith in Action because I'm delighted that First Unitarian Church is doing acts of compassion. We are there alongside other local faith groups serving those who are in need, not just sitting at the big table in leadership roles, which of course is important, but also shoulder to shoulder with the nonprofits who are providing direct relief to some of our most vulnerable people in Central Iowa. This is an aspect of being UU that I am proud of. So please use the link that was provided in the chat earlier and make your donation. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Our special music this morning is We Shall Not Be Moved, which is a traditional spiritual done by Doug and William Esty. And give me just a second and we will have that out.
not be moved. I shall not be moved, just like a tree planted by the water. I shall not be moved. Oh, sister, I shall not be moved. Oh, brother, I shall not be moved, just like a tree planted by the water. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved, just like a tree planted by the water. I shall not be moved. I'm working for my family, I shall not be moved. I'm working for my family, I shall not be moved, just like a tree planted by the water. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved, just like a tree planted by the water. I shall not be moved. I'm fighting for all people, I shall not be moved. I'm fighting for all people, I shall not be moved, just like a tree planted by the water. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved, just like a tree planted by the water. I shall not be moved. I'm quiet, but I'm mighty, I shall not be moved. I'm quiet, but I'm mighty, I shall not be moved, just like a tree planted by the water. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved, just like a tree planted by the water. I shall not be moved. I can make my voice heard, I shall not be moved. I can make my voice heard, I shall not be moved, just like a tree planted by the water. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved, just like a tree planted by the water. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved, just like a tree planted by the water. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved.
Thank you, Will and Doug. You know, our church is not its building, but its community. And as a community of human hands and human hearts, we come together to share the good and the bad, our tears, our laughter. We come together to bear witness and to minister to one another as we struggle with life's sorrows and we celebrate life's joy. We were sent a joy and a sorrow this week. Susan Seitz is having surgery at Mayo Clinic this coming Wednesday to correct an aortic aneurysm. She'll be staying with Walter Pearson and Catherine Lyons afterwards, and she would love cards and phone calls. So if we can, let's fill her mailbox up with caring thoughts to help Susan in recovery. Walter and Catherine's address is in the directory, or if you need it, you can contact me. Please be sure to address any cards to Susan, care of Walter and Catherine, so the post office gets them to her. Another joy coming up, we are going to be starting a whole church book study, and I'd love to have as many people as possible joining us. We are going to be starting on Tuesday, October 6th at 7 p.m. on Zoom, and we're going to be reading together Widening the Circle of Concern, which is the final report from our UUA. Over the last 5 years, the denominational leadership of the UUA has started to move in some new directions. And so the UUA Commission on Institutional Change, who are charged with supporting long-term cultural and institutional change that redeems the essential promise and ideals of Unitarian Universalism, they were appointed in 2017, and they have finished their study and produced their final report, this Widening the Circle of Concern. It is book size, and it is absolutely essential reading if you're a UU in any church today. So you can purchase the book for $16, or you can read it free online. We're going to be reading and discussing it together. We might go for as long as 12 weeks, but if no one is having a lot of depth for the discussions, it could be shorter. So please consider joining us for that. And my last joy is Water Communion is next week, our normal water gathering service. And we can't meet in person, and Iowa is a red zone right now, so we are not even meeting to gather water from each other. We were going to do an in-person water drop-off, and due to the high level of contagion in Iowa right now, we're not doing that. But what I am asking for next week is send me a picture. Send me a picture of the water you love, whether it's a lake, an ocean, a pond, the stream behind your house. There are no limits. So send me a picture, send it to my email, Reverend Amy, REVAMY, at UCDSM.org. Send me a picture by this coming Saturday, and I will put them into a slideshow for the service. We come together to share the names of those we want to hold in love and light. And right now, I'd like to ask that you type into the chat the names of anyone who could use some special care and attention. As we put the names into the chat, may the love of this community hold them all. And I will put the name of that book in when we are done with this section. May the light of our community shine on all of the broken places of the world. May we travel hand in hand with those who fight for equity and justice in human relations. May the work of our hands and our hearts support and comfort all those who are marginalized. oppressed, silenced, or at risk. May we be called to mindful action by the needs of those who struggle against violence, pain, degradation, and destruction. May those who are grieving be comforted. May those who are tired find rest. May the broken places be healed, and may those who are filled with joy and laughter be abundant. Every week I light 3 candles. One for the joys and the sorrows we've shared. One for the names we've written here in the chat. And one last candle for all of the joys and all of the sorrows which are deeply held but which have remained unspoken here today.
Our first reading comes from Economic Justice, a Moral Imperative for UU Humanists by the Reverend Dr. William R. Murray. Now let me turn to the question why humanists should be concerned about economic inequality. The answer, of course, is simple. It is because of what humanism is about. It is not primarily about the supernatural beliefs we reject. It is about the values we stand for. And we stand for human well-being, human flourishing. We stand for social justice and equity for all people, for these affect the quality of life of everyone. Humanism is about the worth and dignity of every human being. It is about respecting persons and caring about each person's well-being. And economic inequality in this country is harmful to human flourishing. Many poor people and people of modest income suffer from malnutrition because they cannot afford healthy diets, from poor health and early death because they cannot afford medical care. Many work in hazardous jobs. They live in substandard housing. And their children are educated in poor schools and often fail to complete high school. In the current recession, or what economist Paul Krugman calls a depression, millions of American school children are receiving free or low-cost meals for the first time as their parents, many once solidly middle class, have lost their jobs or homes, qualifying their families for decades-old safety net program. Moreover, poverty and low income often lead to low self-esteem and depression. In a society where a person's worth is at least in part measured by his or her income and wealth, being on one of the bottom rungs of the economic ladder leads to a diminished sense of self-worth. If we humanists care about human beings, we will care about the economic inequality and what it does to people. These are moral problems that need to be addressed.
The words for meditation today are a poem called I Don't Want to Be Rich by Anonymous. I don't want to be rich. I have no interest in Gucci or Prada or learning to walk in heels so high that I totter and step on my fur coat. I never want to own a yacht or have to speak to a nanny and 2 cooks, only to find that my child is in Switzerland on a skiing holiday. I do not dream of caviar and coq au vin. I'm not even sure what that is or how one prepares to eat so richly or so well. I want instead to know the warmth of coffee, bought without thinking, hot and steaming and not requiring me to borrow $5 that I will never repay. I want to know what it feels like to take my glowing 6-year-old into the store and say, get the colored pencils and the construction paper too. Later, we would walk into McDonald's, swinging hands across the parking lot, and I would buy a thick shake each. And we would talk over chocolate and strawberry. I would have time to see him smile. At home, I would watch him sleep and say, it's all right, Mama's here. I don't want to be rich. I just want to be. Please join me now in 3 minutes. We're going to try 3 minutes of silence, meditation, or prayer.
Our second reading is from No One Deserves a Spot at Harvard. Michael Sandel Makes a Case Against Meritocracy by Spencer Lee Lenfield. In 2015, Lanny Guinier, Bosky Professor of Law Emerita, published The Tyranny of Meritocracy, an attack on the regime of testocracy in public education. She proposed redefining merit to encompass traits like collaboration that boulders democratic participation. Last year, Yale Law School professor Daniel Markovits contended in the meritocracy trap that meritocracy creates an endless, soul-deadening treadmill of competition for those on the top that nevertheless allows their class to capture most of the rewards of economic growth. The latest entry in this debate comes from Bass Professor of Government Michael Sandel, the political theorist whose Justice course is familiar to Harvard students and online audiences worldwide. In contrast to Guinier's reformist account, his The Tyranny of Merit, What's Become of the Common Good, launches a direct attack on the philosophical underpinnings of meritocracy. He comes not to salvage the concept, but to bury it. Meritocracy, he argues, is obviously imperfect in its current form. It approximates true equality of opportunity only roughly. But even if equality of opportunity were attainable, which Sandel doubts, he thinks meritocracy would neither desirable nor sustainable. Even a perfect meritocracy has multiple flaws that make it unjust. The biggest problem is that meritocracy demands equality of opportunity at the starting line, but legitimizes whatever inequalities follow as natural products of innate differences in talent and virtue, hardworkingness, intelligence, perseverance. Like Young, Sandel worries that such meritocratically sanctioned inequalities of outcome cultivate insidious self-satisfaction among the winners, who believe they've earned their fruit of their hard work, without appreciating the luck, circumstances, and public goods that allow intelligence and hard work to blossom fully. That failure to see how there but for the grace of God go I, having to drop out of high school, say, in a different life, can lead winners to strip dignity, pride, and honor from work that doesn't require higher educational credentials. A perfect meritocracy banishes all sense of gift or grace, Sandel writes. It diminishes our capacity to see ourselves as sharing a common fate. It leaves little room for the solidarity that can arise when we reflect on the contingency of our talents and fortunes. Our centering song today is number 157, Step by Step, the Longest March. The words will be in the chat screen. Please keep your mics muted.
Step by step, the longest march can be won, can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly none, singly none. And by union what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill, singly none, singly none.
Thank you so much, Barb and Bruce. Eugene V. Debs wrote, "I'm opposing a social order in which it's possible for one man who does absolutely nothing useful to amass a fortune of hundreds of millions of dollars, while millions of people who work all the days of their lives secure barely enough for a wretched existence. Now, I can't imagine what Debs would have said about Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, or Mark Zuckerberg. It's actually almost impossible for the human mind to conceptualize of a personal fortune of over $190 billion, such as Elon Musk has. Trying to stay afloat in 2020 in the middle of a pandemic on minimum wage, you know, that would be like participating in the world's worst game show next to the Hunger Games. I mean, I can just see this now. Today, our contestant is a 22-year-old single mother who works 40 hours a week at a come and go right here in Des Moines. She can't get a better job even though she has a college degree. She makes minimum wage, yes, minimum wage, $7.25 an hour, and after taxes brings home an amazing and incredible $1,150 a month. If you try to make life choices that give her everything she needs while she stays within the budget, it's a wretched, wretched task. Affordable rent here begins at about $350 a month. And I don't know about any of you, but I stayed in a $350 a month apartment 15 years ago or so in Cincinnati. The walls were thin enough that if you walked by outside, I could hear how much change was in your pocket. The carpet was basically cloth glued over cement. But a $350 a month apartment is what you can actually afford on minimum wage. Around here, decent apartments begin around $650. Gas, electric, and water and garbage, that can run you anywhere from $70 up a month. If you try to have cable, it starts at $55 a month with a 2-year contract. A smartphone, which you really need to keep a job, well, you can buy one of those that starts at $30 for the phone itself, plus $70 a month for unlimited talk, text, data. An older car takes oil every month to keep running, has insurance, gas. If you're low income, you get daycare vouchers, so you might only pay $30 a month for daycare. But if you can't find a provider in your area, then you have to pay more gas. Healthcare is a mess. Low monthly payments, $98 to $244 to $500. But you may have a deductible as high as $10,000. What this means is that somebody on minimum wage ends up with about negative $600 a month available for their use. They qualify for about $350 a month in food stamps. And the scary part is I suspect this game show would have ratings that are through the roof. At double minimum wage, you can actually afford the $600 a month apartment, but your standard of living doesn't get any better because you lose your food stamps and your vouchers. About 30% of everybody over the age of 18 is working for minimum wage or near it in the US. That's about 20.6 million people. There was a Pew Research study in 2014 that said that about 75% of the people answering wanted minimum wage to be raised, $10 or higher. The group Fight for 15 has been fighting like heck for the last few years to get it up over $15 because it's the right thing to do. We understand possible and impossible, and it's impossible to raise one child on minimum wage. It's almost as impossible on double minimum wage. And then we had a pandemic hit. So right now, people across this whole country are struggling. People in this Zoom are struggling. People are worried if they're going to make it. But we have a big problem in America, and people fighting for just wages for all of us are fighting uphill. Ronald Wright said, socialism never took root in America because the poor see themselves not as the exploited proletariat, but as temporarily embarrassed millionaires. I like that phrase. But what that means is that most people don't see themselves as poor. They don't see themselves as needing help. They don't understand that to be in the 1%, right now, you have to have an income that begins over $450,000 a year. So you have to have almost $500,000 a year and a personal net worth over $10 million. That puts you in the 1%. The rest of us are lumped down in the 99%. The mountain is so high that most of us don't even see the peak anymore. We don't see how unequal it is, so we don't work together to strengthen the unions, raise the minimum wage, stop trickle-down economics, fight for wealth redistribution. Americans just don't do that. We're trying. But we've bought into this idea of meritocracy as a country, that somehow the people financially on top deserve to be there because they've earned it. The more we think of ourselves as self-made and self-sufficient, the harder it is to learn gratitude and humility. And without those, it's hard to care for the common good. That's a quote from Michael Sandel's The Tyranny of Merit. Meritocracy used to be called the Peter Principle. It's when people rise to their level of incompetence just slightly beyond where they should be, and they're rewarded according to how high they rise. We think that in America, only we control our rise. It looks good on paper. You would think that would make sense, that you rise as high as you can. In practice, it's a disaster. Those who make it claim they earned it on merit, all by themselves, and they look down on those who didn't get that far. They must not have wanted it, right? Not tried hard enough. And so life becomes a race for all the credentials you need to do well. Michael Sandel teaches this at Harvard, and he argues that these are really dangerous times for democracy. We live in this age where there are definitive winners and losers, and the odds are stacked in favor of the already favored. Stalled social media or social mobility and entrenched inequality tell us, oh, you can make it if you try. And the consequence is this anger and frustration that has fueled these populist protests and the triumph of Brexit and the election of Donald Trump. Sandel argues that to overcome these polarized politics, we have to rethink the attributes, success and failure, that have accompanied globalization and rising inequality. Right now, the people winning at financial life pat themselves on the back and call everyone else lazy. A few months ago, I saw an article where a young couple, especially the young woman, was talking about how they had gotten out from under student loan debt in under 3 years, almost $250,000 worth of it. How anybody could do it the way they did. How'd they do it? She graduated and was given a full-time job by her mother, who owned the company, making $100,000 plus a year. Her mother gave them a free condo in a high income area as a wedding present. They moved in. 3 months later, they moved out to live with their grandmother, who had a suite available, and rented their own free condo out to make income. With that income, they bought 2 more condos, and in just a few years, wow, they were debt-free. See, anybody could do it. You just have to be given a $100,000 a year job and a free $250,000 condo, and you too can be rich. If you get a chance, read The Tyranny of Merit. Sandel offers an alternative way of thinking about success. And he wants us to think about the role of luck in succeeding. He wants us to remember humility and be more hospitable to the politics of the common good. We didn't get where we are by yanking on our own bootstraps. And we're nowhere near the wealth of the elite 1%. We are not called to the work of economic justice because it benefits somebody out there. We're called to it because it's us. It's all of us. Ed Noel wrote in his book, The Pursuit of Just Wages, that it was unfair and sinful to pay less than the just wage just because a worker had mouths to feed. A mere willingness to work for that money wasn't enough. It didn't relieve the employer of the moral responsibility to pay. On this Labor Day weekend, I invite you to think back to the great labor and justice movements in our country, to the democratic work of union men and women who helped to create Labor Day and to define a living wage. We stand on their shoulders on this great cloud of witnesses, and we have a big task before us, and that task is to continue what they've begun. Because we're all in this together. We are the 99%. And we're all tired, and we're all worried, and we're all not quite sure of the way. But there are so many of us, and if we only recognize that there are more than us, more of us, that we are the majority, then hopefully, eventually, no one will ever have to play that world's worst game show ever again. Our job isn't to win. Our job is just to learn to work together and support one another. Blessed be.
We extinguish this chalice, but never the light of love, the fire of commitment, or the warmth of our community. May we carry our light into the world as we strive to honor the work of those who labor. Our final song today is number 121, We'll Build a Land. The words, as you know, will be in the chat screen. Please keep your mics muted and simply sing along at home if you'd like.
We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Oh, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and we'll give them garlands instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is born. where like oaks of righteousness stand. Oh, we'll build a land where people are free. Oh, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace where justice shall rule down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
The service has ended and your service in the world begins again. Peace, Ashe, and may it be so.